welcome to another episode of, oh my God, I feel like I have a radio voice this morning.
Yes, Queen.
Welcome to Showing Up For You. Hey, Jasmine.
What is up, everybody? Welcome. We are recording in the morning. It's nice.
I know. I feel like I sound like Theo from 92.3 to be. Do you know? Okay, no. Okay, so LA.
Okay, but I was about to say, is that an LA station? Because we don't got that up here. Let me tell you.
So Theo had us thinking he was black for all these years, right? And because it wasn't like, I grew up in the age where it wasn't like we can just Google him.
Mm-hmm. Right. Like, who is
you
the voice
had to
of...
trust. You know what I mean? Theo from 92.3 The Beat. And if you are from California or, the Inland Empire, you know what I'm saying. Theo sounded like the most chocolatey black man that walked the earth.
Just swooned you.
Oh my God. He sounded amazing. And then we saw a picture of him. And I don't want to get this wrong, but he looked to be... I don't know if he's Korean. Mm-hmm. I don't know. He's not black.
Yes.
And it threw us all for a loop. But for years,
right,
we just knew he was the most smooth talking.
Just had people on lock on the radio. Do you remember there was like a phase recently? I don't know. I mean, it probably showed up on yours and I's timelines because our algorithm is very similar. But it was like songs that you thought were like sung by a black man or a black woman, but definitely was not a black man or a black woman. Do you?
I don't.
I think we sent each other. It was like months
it was
ago.
one. Yeah.
We were like texting back and forth.
I forgot which one it was.
Same. We'll have to figure that because that was we was both shook. Like we've been singing this our whole life. It's been at the cookouts, and here
I know we were like 2 steps into it. But it's like that's just one of those things. Like when when radio was just radio and not a video countdown or like a live Breakfast Club type thing. You just had to trust the part.
Had to trust.
So anyway, said all that to say that I felt like I sounded really good like Theo did. That's funny. Anyway, how was your weekend?
Oh my gosh, my weekend was great. I came back from vacation, a much needed vacation. So that was really nice. I got to go to LA and spend some time there and catch some sunshine, which was lovely.
It must be nice. Enough of that then, since we are not having sunshine here.
I did not share, but how was your weekend?
Whatever. Whatever. Don't just skate over here to the foggy, overcast state. Now that you're back home.
But we celebrated you.
I was about to answer that. My weekend was great because we had a baby shower.
We did.
And that was really, really the sweetest. And it was the best because I am a very simple and intimate person. And it was literally like all of my closest girlfriends. And we just got to spend the best time together. And I was cheesing the whole time. Like, I hated even having to go to the bathroom.
She ran at some point.
I was like, dang it, ain't this about something? Good timing, Zella. But it was amazing. It was, the location was gorgeous. The food was great.
Yeah.
Oh my God, everything was perfect. So I'm on cloud 9. And that's probably the last big thing I'll do before I hide under a rock and nest for the third and last time in this journey called motherhood. So all in all, sounds like we had some really good weekends.
Yeah, it was good. Celebrating you was fun. Celebrating babies always fun. Meeting your friends was really fun. It's always fun to you hear stories of people, like even when people meet you at first and my friends will be like, your aunt, who you do the podcast with? I finally met her. I saw her. It's like when you just put a face to a name, it's always so funny. So that was really fun.
It is. And it was so cute. Okay. I don't know whose idea this game was, but the one where you guys had people write the vague stories of how they met me. But here's where this backfired because I knew all the answers. I don't meet people like normal people.
No.
I don't think I've ever met somebody where I was like, hey, how you doing?
Right.
My name is. And so when they read the cards, when the hosts read the cards off, you know, quote unquote anonymously, right? There were so many details that triggered me where I'm like, I know who that is.
You knew every single one.
Because everything was like specific to something. Like one person that I met, my neighbor, which I love. And the way we met was I showed up at her door one day, like after like a few months of her living in the new house. And I showed up at her door with a packet of 460 water balloons. And I handed it to her. And I was like, I challenge you to a water balloon fight. And she was like, game on. And I left.
It was friendship ever since.
And I left. Like, do what you will. Here's your material. This is it. And ever since then, like, it's just been great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, every time you guys read off something, it was something wild. And I'm like, oh, I know exactly what that is.
Yeah.
So it just reminds you, like, you know, who you run into in life. And, you know, anyway, it was really, really great.
Yeah. So. It was fun. It was super special. It was fun. We got to reminisce.
Yeah.
You know, which was really cool. And I think sometimes it's fun to reminisce sometimes and think about, you know, past things that have happened. So
yeah.
Love that.
That's a good word for it. Yeah. Today's is I'm actually looking forward to like this episode because we're kind of like approaching a more random. So we have like these questions that we kind of just been like throwing out there, and like I was actually looking at them and I'm like, I think there's like a running theme of like blast from the past. Yeah. And it's not even like our past or like it's just it's random, but I'm really excited because I'm curious to know some of your answers, and so I'm really excited. So I'm gonna throw them at you. Well, I'll throw the first one at you.
Perfect.
And I'm gonna put you on the spot.
It's always my favorite thing. Y'all know how she does me.
All right. So, what is the best lesson you've learned from an ex?
Which one? I'm just kidding.
Don't you dare. Just say, just tell me the best. Like what is the best takeaway? Even if like the relationship, well, I mean, because they all couldn't have been great.
Yeah, let me tell you. I'm just kidding. We're not going there.
Oh my God. We don't cut.
The best, right. I'm out. I told her she comes for me. The best takeaway that I've had from an ex. That's such a hard question because I feel like I try to be super reflective in like, you know, what did I learn from this? Not in an overly optimistic way, but I think the best lesson that I took away from one individual in particular was learning how to be present independently, but also relationally.
What does that mean?
Meaning, like, when I was with this individual, it was just like, when you see him, you see her. When you see her, you see him. It was just constantly like the two of us. And like at the age I was at, I was like, oh, how dreamy. Like everybody, you know what I mean? Like sees the two of us and like, yeah, y'all gonna know when you see him, you see me kind of thing. But that turned into some unhealthy codependency.
I can see.
You know, with one another. And so that just like, when you weren't, you know, here for something, I was frustrated or, you know, and vice versa, or it felt like we needed to do too many things together. And I'm like, in all reality, we don't like all the same things and that's okay. You know, so I'm sitting here trying to force myself to like stuff that you do and that's dumb.
Right.
Personal opinion. And so I think like the biggest takeaway that I took from that, and you know, I'm still friends with this person, but they've encouraged me to be like, be present for yourself independently while you're in a relationship with someone, because like that's you continue to grow, and the hope is to be with somebody who wants to grow with you and encourage that growth, and you know, you're able to have independent goals for yourself and like new things that you want to reach, where, you know, first I wasn't even married to this person, I was dating them.
Oh yeah.
You know, and so I was sitting here like wanting to be like, it was so much like we and us language that I forgot to have like me and my language.
Right.
So that was probably the biggest takeaway that I took from that.
That's good. I think that's like a good lesson to learn, because I don't want to lose myself in anybody. Like, I want to be myself and then contribute to the relationship.
Right.
And if I'm whoever you need me to be, like, I'm not able to genuinely bring who I am. I'm just on full compromise mode.
Right.
Which, you know, I mean, like, that's a whole nother conversation. Compromise, right? So yeah, I like that. I think that's big.
Yeah.
For me, I think I learned, like, people are gonna people, like, for the people they love. So, like, the reason I say it like that, it makes sense in my head, so follow me. But, like, I don't necessarily believe in changing who you are for someone. I believe in working with the person to either communicate that you can't be that, or communicate, like, where there can be a slight compromise, right? And anybody that's married, like, you know, for me and my chocolate man, it'll be 10 years this year, right? Woo! And so what we've learned is, like, there has to be some compromise. Yeah. But that doesn't mean I'm compromising myself. Right. I'm compromising a few things that maybe I contribute, right? But I was in a relationship prior to the one that I'm blessed to be in now, and I wanted what I have now with that person, right? And I remember just, like, feeling like, why can't you be who I need you to be? Like, I know you love me. I know you want a future with me. Why can't you take these steps for me? Yeah. And he couldn't. Yeah. And so finally I was like, I gotta go. Like, I love you, but I gotta go. You know what I mean? And so, but then after I left, he started to do all the things that I would have needed him to do in the relationship. And I was like, why did you do that? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and it let me know that, like, even though, you know, like, timing was perfect, and it was great that timing was off, but, like, yeah, when you're in a relationship, like, you are going to either put the effort of communicating or making clear about the stage in your life forward, whether that's, hey, I can't be what you need me to be right now. Right. Give me some time. Or whether that's, you know what, I do want to be that person and I'm working on it. You know what I mean? But people are going to be that person, that communicative or that mature person for the people they love. Yeah. And you could be in love with somebody or in love with somebody, and those are two different things. You know what I mean? And so you have to understand that, like, not everybody is worth working that out for. And you have to be okay if you're not that person. You know what I mean? Like, as perfect as I want to think I am, I wasn't that person for the few before, you know. And I know a lot of people like to say, like, I'm the one that got away. I can see that, you know, but I also agree that, like, if somebody let you slip through their fingers, like, there was a reason. Yeah. You didn't necessarily get away. Either you weren't for them, right, or they just weren't ready for you at the time. Yeah. So you didn't get away. The timing was wrong. You know what I mean? Or you just didn't belong in that relationship. And so people are going to people for the people they love. Like, they're going to be who they need to be or communicate who they want to be for the people they love. And that's okay that you're not on the receiving end. You know what I mean?
You did not have to come for everybody's throat like that.
Oh my God, next question. Jesus.
No, there's something she brought up that I want to... No, hold on here. I actually am sweating so much. Oh man, because a lot of that resonates. It's fine. Shoot. It's slipping through my fingers.
Oh my gosh.
It's gonna come back. Hopefully it comes back. That was good. I just want to say everything that you said was so good. And I think there's so many takeaways, because I think relationally, personally, I think that it really is so easy to be like, I am perfect. I did all the things. And it's like, we really don't want to take the time to recognize that you're not the person for somebody.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
the same thing applies for friendships. The same thing applies for,
That's
you know
true.
what I mean? Like, you're just not that person, and that's okay. Because why would you want to get stuck in misery? Anyways,
True that.
do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lord.
Okay, wait. On topic. You're married to my
Am I?
uncle. And I'm like, you about to have this whole baby,
I know, right?
ma'am. But you guys have been dating or not dating. Well, you've been married for almost 10 years, which is amazing. Such a beautiful day. But just take it back. Let's take it back. Blast to the past. Is that how that goes? If you could go back
get you.
and approach dating differently, would you?
Would I?
And if so, how would you approach it differently? Give it to us single ladies.
Don't you start this. Okay. So how would I approach dating him or dating period? Like,
I'm going to say period.
Period. So I think it would depend on like the time or presence amount. Like I can honestly say I had been in what I would consider like 3 different serious relationships before I met my husband. So, but each one I was a different like level of mature.
Yeah.
And so like it's like I leveled up each time. Like, ooh, I know what to ask this time. So how would I approach dating? I think that I would have gone into, and then by the time I started really dating, I was in college. Like I just didn't feel the need to be present with anybody besides my friends in high school. Cause I was like, what can you do for me?
All right.
I got stuff to do. So college. Okay. I approached it more, I guess, willingly and less, like I don't think I was as firm on my standards as I thought I was. Right? Like I can remember, if I'm honest, like this is a safe place. If I'm honest, there were a few times where I almost slipped up and I said I wouldn't. Like I was just like willing to fold.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was teeter-tottering between like you gotta give a little to get a little. So when it came to approaching dating, I went in firm, but I also remember, I just also remember like being like, you ever feel yourself, how do I say it? Oh, I'm so stuck. It's almost like I was ready to be talked into something.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean?
Like peer pressure, but like,
yeah. I was like,
yeah.
I mean, if you beg hard enough, I might.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like if you work hard enough or you show so like this amount of extra effort kind of thing.
Instead of having a firm. Yeah. So I approach dating that way, if that makes sense. And then what was the other part of the question?
Oh, shoot. Sorry. I got nervous. I was so...
Because I started like...
If you could go back and approach it differently, would you? And how would you do it?
Oh, okay. So realistically, yeah, I'd want to go into it with a more mature mindset. But I do think that I wouldn't change anything because I don't know that I would have learned the hard lessons. Like, I remember being in a relationship, or no, it wasn't even a real relationship. I remember like dating this guy and we had like one encounter and he pretty much was like, yeah, I think that if we go further, I'll ruin you. Like he flat out told me that. And I was like, well, what does that mean?
Fellas really be bold. Like, I'm gonna ruin you. Just wait, have you met me? I'll ruin you.
Right.
Just kidding.
But he was like, if you let me go to this next stage in our relationship. And it wasn't even, like I said, it wasn't even a relationship. It was just me being, in college and thinking it was okay to fold on certain things. But he was like, you're not this person. He was like, I don't know who you're trying to be.
Wow.
but you're not this person, and I don't want to be responsible for this.
You're the one who...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was like one of the saddest moments of my life. But it was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Because I was like, how crazy that someone had to remind me of who I was.
Yeah. Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And so like, I wouldn't change those moments that put me back on track, because he knew who I was. He knew my personality and what, you know, everyone thought and what I carried and how I carried myself. And so I wouldn't change it, because I think the mistakes and the embarrassments helped me find myself and then say, okay, I can't do this again.
Yeah.
Had I gone into it all perfect and like proper, I don't know that I would have learned like what it's like to fail or be rejected or wonder or be confused about if a guy likes me, or, you know, get unsolicited advice about test driving the car before you buy it. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't know if I would have gone through all that. So I wouldn't change a thing.
I love it.
No, I think my screw ups, I think my embarrassments and everything made me.
It led her to 10 years of marriage and 2, almost 3 children later. Beautiful.
So,
It's
something.
beautiful.
What about you?
Chef's kiss. I mean, I feel like I sit in a similar boat. You know, I guess it's the easy thing to say, like, it's led me to where I am, you know, and whatnot. But I do think that if I really had to like sit and analyze of something that I would do differently or how I would approach it, is I have this unyielding loyalty to people that I do not need to have it to. So,
Well,
like, I, you know, same here. Most of like my serious dating was in college, and even like obviously those things like did not work out for all the right reasons. And I think that I realized like even like after breakups, I still had this loyalty to someone that I was no longer with. So that prevented me from like having this freedom in like dating and getting to know people. Like if somebody asked me out, I had this like guilt that would like literally like sit in my chest and I would like then bring on shame to myself of like, you should be like ashamed that you're doing these things, you know, which is like, and so I really had to, like if I looked back, I think that's something that I very much would want to do differently, because I'm like, no, I had the freedom, you know, to step into new spaces. And it wasn't that like, I think that there's been people who have like spoken over me of like, Jasmine, you're just the type to like be a wife. You have like a wife's mentality. And I'm like, don't speak that over me, because that's not what I am, and no one has courted me in that way, you know? And so I just see there's so many moments that I look back that I'm like, I wish that I would have just like let myself go on more dates, get to know people and be friendly, you know what I mean? And just like get to just talk and chat to people and like get to know them, because I'm like, I love just to get to know people like in general. I think like now, you know, because I'm just in, you know, a different season of life, but you know, if I'm at a bar and somebody says hi to me, I don't have this guilt, you know, that sits with me of like, I can't like, you know, respond to you. Whereas before, like when I was in college, which is like the prime time, I guess you could say, you know what I mean? Like going to talk to people, because it's much harder now when you have a full-time job and you have a whole life and all the things. So, you know, I just look back at that and I'm like, I'm so bummed that I allowed myself to feel guilty, you know, to have this loyalty to people who didn't reciprocate that to me. And I think we do that more often than not. Like, I know, bold statement, but like, I know there's a lot of women in my life, you know, close friends of mine who are like, I don't think that I should do this. And I'm like, well, why? They didn't call you back. They didn't text you back. You don't have a ring on your finger.
Yeah. You're single until you're married.
That's it.
I completely believe in that.
Yeah.
Wow. No, that's good right there. Yaisa. we're just going I'm not going to sit here for too long.
Right.
I'm not playing with you this morning. Okay. If you could go into the future and be your daughter or son's best friend, being the like main person they ask for relationship advice from, what would you share with them? Like, I know you don't have kids, but like, you know, whether you had a boy or a girl, or even if you didn't have kids and you just spoken to one of my roommates, right? Like, what would you contribute to their dating? Like, what would you tell them about dating?
I think definitely what I just shared, you know.
Yeah.
There's no reason to have unyielding loyalty to people who don't have it to you.
Boom.
That's a big thing. You know, I think another thing would be to like chase after your dreams and your passions, and the person who is for you will like support you in that and will compliment you in that. They're a bonus to the things. Like, you've got stuff that you got to get done and you want to happen,
right,
and want to make happen for your life. And so I think that like I would really want to tell, you know, my future son or future daughter of like, go and do your things, because the person is going to come whenever they come.
right.
Like, you're not in a rush. I think that's something that like I wish somebody would have told me, like, what are you in a rush? Like, you know, if people tell me that now, they're like, take a seat, you're fine.
Right.
That, but I also my last one definitely would just be to allow yourself to get to know people on a friendship level.
Yeah.
I think that is so huge. Like, having a, you know, a partner or whoever it is like in your life that you want to take seriously, they need to be your friend.
I completely agree.
Need to be your friend first, because like this is my own thing. Like, I just live by like the foundation of a relationship is friendship. And because I'm like, you're gonna have days where you just want to come home and you want to vent, not to your partner. Like, you want to like talk to them like they're your friend,
right?
You know, and your best friend, because your best friend is somebody who like rides for you when you're not in the room. They go hard for you, you know. And just really like when you're not around, that's somebody that's really like for you. And so I think like that's, you know, for my future son or future daughter, my hope is that they find like the deepest friend before they find anything else.
Yeah. I like that. That was like, that's actually like one of the things I was wanting to answer with, because I do feel like one, like I do feel like they need to, I'd want my kids to know the importance of friendship before a relationship. Because a lot of times we think that we need to be in a relationship because we're lonely, or like we desire companionship, or like we have to be present with people. And a lot of us are our heart is full, or we're fed by social interaction, right? And so, and a lot of us are fed by alone time, you know, so whatever that balance looks like, I'd rather my daughter or son understand what friendship is, and then that difference of be okay with being by yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so definitely that, you know, just to piggyback off what you're saying about friendship versus relationship. Second, I need my kids to know, like, there is nothing that the opposite sex could offer you in high school, teenage years, younger. There is no reason for a boyfriend or girlfriend as a teenager. And I wish that somebody said that louder for the kids these days.
So good.
Like, what could you do for me? And what exactly am I looking for in you? Reality is, I'm curious about intimacy or sex.
Yeah.
Or I think it's cool to have somebody on my arm. And I'm speaking as a teenager, been there, done that, right?
Yeah.
Come on, Sean. I think it's cool to have somebody on my arm. I want somebody to talk to on the phone at night. I want I just have a crush and I want to expand on this, right? But the reality is, like, this 17-year-old boy, he don't pay a mortgage. he doesn't have a credit score.
Right.
He can't tell you, he can't provide medical benefits if something happened. You'd be on his mom's insurance or mine, right? Like, you know what I mean?
That's so true.
And you know, I look at like with my son, like if you get caught up in this whole chasing girls thing, you ready to be a teen dad? Because I'm gonna make you show up. Because we getting visitation rights. Like we are sharing custody.
Yes.
You're gonna
our
have to,
baby.
Our baby. Right? And so I look at that, like, and I would want my kids to know, like, high school is not a dating pit.
Yeah.
It is not. College, you have an idea of who you are. You're more than likely not under my roof.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, I would want them to understand how minimal and tiny of a contribution having a girlfriend or boyfriend in high school or as a teenager is.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really like the bigger thing, you know, because I think even you kind of mentioned telling yourself, like, take your time, chill out, right?
Yes.
We have this idea, and it could be society, it could be traditionally, I don't know, but culturally, it's like your biological clock is ticking, and you know what I mean? It's all these things, and we feel like we have this gap, and we have to pass through by this age or by this time.
Right.
So you have kids thinking like, I need to find my mate now, because I want to say that I have my high school sweetheart. I married that person, right? Like,
for it to all sound like a pretty story, but you're gonna tell it once and then moving on.
Let me tell you, I'm gonna be honest. I don't think it sounds like a pretty story at all. It sounds like I found my person, and I'm learning with them, and I'm more committed because of the time put in. In a lot of situations, it's like I'm more committed because of the time put in, rather than I've had time by myself.
Right.
And then I can contribute to this relationship. Because the reality is, when you have that high school sweetheart, you were never an adult on your own.
No.
You never were.
Yeah.
And it's not even about dating other people. It's about struggling on your own and knowing how to handle you so that you can bring in, you know what I mean, positive contributions.
Yeah.
You know, I look at it like, if me and my husband dated in high school, I don't know that he would have had time to address his like daddy issues on his own before coming to me. I don't know if I would have had time to address my mommy issues before coming to him.
Yeah.
Because we would have just already been struggling together.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I think that there are so many people it works for. At the end of the day, though, like, I want people to acknowledge that, like, it's okay to separate.
Yeah.
And get to know yourself before you contribute to a lifelong relationship. So I said all that to say, I don't want my children to think that there's any like major thing or necessity in having a relationship in high school.
Yeah.
You don't even know what your, car insurance costs yet. Like you just, it don't even,
right.
What can you contribute? So, that's what I would want them to know. Like, take your time. You don't need to be thinking about this right now.
No, that is so good. Now that you bring that up, I'm like, for sure. Like, we both had the opportunity to live by ourselves and do our own things. And like, when I was living alone, you would always call me and tell me, I'm just jealous of your life right now. Because
absolutely, because I've lived it. Like, it's like, and it's not a matter of like I want to go back. It's a matter of like, I would tell you, like, be in this moment, take advantage of this moment, because I was there. I was in my own apartment. I was in my own space. I could not, be obligated to be present for anybody.
Yeah,
and that was perfectly fine. And I love that for you. I think every young person should do that.
Absolutely. I have a friend right now who is, I think, like 2 years younger than me or something like that. She's having her first moment of like living by herself. And when she told me, I lit up for her, because I'm like, you don't know the goodness that's going to come out of
Oh
this.
my
You learn so
God.
much about yourself, like when you're having a bad day, when you're having a good day, like all the things, like there's just so much that comes out of it that you learn by yourself, that anybody who enters your space, you've got to bring you're a bonus, and you have to bring something to my space in order to be here.
And you know that before they come in. They don't have the like power to identify or correct it.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing.
This is how it's set up. We are having dinner. What are you bringing to dinner? Like, it's just small, subconscious things that it's like, you really, it takes time to identify it, but it's like, yeah. Yeah. I'm like, I get giddy about it because it really is such a special moment.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Moving on. I'm like, we could sit here forever. I'm like, living alone, it's the best.
It's our kryptonite. Like,
okay. So, question. We're blast from the past. Can you identify a moment when you started asking for advice? Because when you're young, you kind of are like going through the like, I'm told, to do certain things. But do you recall when you started asking for advice?
You know what? So, yikes. Wow. Yes. I would say it was like 15, between 15 and 16, because like years 12 through 14, a lot happened to me, and it was so confusing. And I was just trying to like be obedient and do whatever I was told. Yeah. But then I had a group of, there were a group of women that mentored me and my sister and my cousin. And it was called Young Women of Virtue. Shout out to Young Women of Virtue.
Cute.
It was so cute.
I love that.
So cute. And that's how I met my self-proclaimed godmom. Yeah. Who is now literally like a grandma to my kids. And
she's the great.
She don't play about her goddaughter. But her love for me, and then simultaneously, like, there were like two other women in my life that just made themselves present. They were they created an atmosphere where they made me feel comfortable enough to ask questions. And so I won't say that like I just was like so bold enough to ask for advice. No. Yeah. They created that atmosphere. And what that looked like is, one of them was a teacher, and she taught at my high school, and she would change my schedule. Like, she worked with the guidance counselor, like changed my schedule to honors classes when she knew I was smarter, but I didn't want to do it.
Real one. And
I was like, how did I end up in AP?
Right. I didn't ask for this.
Hated it. But she challenged me, but she gave me that space to ask the question. Anyway, so I say all that to say, I was about 15, and when I saw these models of women, I knew like, there's no way they're all here, and I can't pick something up. So I kind of got into this mode of like, I'm gonna just sit and just ask all the questions. So I started to inquire about college. Before them, that wasn't something that was spoken of in my household. It wasn't like, you're gonna go to college, you're gonna be something. That wasn't what was that wasn't a thing. Or it wasn't heavily promoted, I'll say that. And so when I saw them, I was like, I know what I want now. Yeah. I knew I didn't want this. Right. But now I know that that's what I want. And so it came from the atmosphere that was created. I hope that answers.
Oh my gosh, that answers perfectly. That is so good. I think, it's really beautiful to see older women really take younger women underneath their wings, because it really is like so needed, and something that you and I talk about so often. Like, that's something that I still pray for to this day, like in my life, because I'm like, you don't see it too much anymore, which is such a bummer. So I love that you had that experience.
Right. And I pray that like outside of me, my daughter has those things, because now that I think about it, like my godmom, like always just been a businesswoman. She had her own business, and she has always like, she's ran her own business and like been a boss for years. And I'm like, I don't know how she does it. The other women in my life like have like reached the top of their credentials.
Yeah.
Have like exceeded in different types of Black women, like just out there thriving.
Yeah.
And it's like one thing to see them succeed and another thing to say like you have time to feed me, meaning like you have time to sow into me. Oh, I'm getting all of the advice.
Right.
I still text and be like, what you do when you what you put on your
Let me
resume
rack
when
it
you
in. Yeah. Help a girl out.
I do.
I love that.
What about you?
I feel like I have a hard time really identifying it because I would actually say probably it wasn't until like my freshman year of college, like where I can very vividly be like, this is when I started asking for advice.
Right.
Because like when I always call it like my season of confusion was literally freshman year to senior year because there was there was a lot moving in my life at that time, and just what my context looked like. I was navigating it. I was trying to take inventory. I was trying to understand it the best way that I could, know how. And so it wasn't until I got to college and I was around strangers that I began to ask for advice because I didn't feel safe to ask for advice in my previous environment.
Wow.
So
see how important that is? Like, yikes.
Crazy, because I somehow I'm like,
you felt safer with strangers than you did with your people.
Because all I would get is if I like, look back, all I got was unsolicited. So if you're giving it to me anyways, why would I approach you?
That's a pattern. Like, I think that, it sounds like we went through the same, like, similar.
Yes.
What? Wow.
It is
that's
crazy.
Actually really dangerous.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, I mean, it's okay. I'm like, well, it is what it is. But it is a bummer. And that's why I love knowing your godmom, because I'm like, she's just the best to me. And I'm like, so I praise that so much, because I'm like, it really is like so needed. But for me, it wasn't until I got to college I was around strangers, because I'm like, you don't personally know anything about me that so I can just give it to you and lay down on you, and you can like, because I think that when I ask for advice, I want the logical, analytical kind of answer. So I'm like, for some of the people that I would ask advice for, I knew that they would give it to me and be like, okay, these are the facts that you've laid out for me, and this is the conclusion that I've come to, and this is how I can advise you. Right.
Rather than looking at the way you're judged or your past or
all the emotions involved into it.
And that's the unfortunate thing is like a lot of our people that we want to have that atmosphere with, to ask those advice things, they are still living in what they thought about us years ago, and they haven't let go and recognize our growth. So why would I give you a logical answer or one that would actually bring you to a better standard?
Right.
If I'm still like hating on, 2 Thanksgivings ago, you said that you
right. Or you said you were gonna show up to this and you did, or whatever.
Yeah.
It may be.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's pretty wild. And I probably still till this day, like, I have a mentor from college, and I mean, he's more, I would consider him my professional mentor, I guess you could say. And to this day, I mean, I haven't seen him in probably 5 years or so now. But I'll just be like, hey, Bill,
nice.
And he'll always like give it back to me, which is great. But
thank you, Bill.
Right? Shout out to Bill. But because he's created a space, and like there's also other individuals that I have more personal relationships with that I, grew in college. They've encouraged me to know how to ask for advice from people that I said I didn't feel safe asking for advice. But they, it was recognizing like who has weight in your life that you want advice from, but what is it that you're genuinely asking for them? Is it approval? Is it affirmation? Is it sound advice?
Didn't we talk about this?
Yeah, we did.
This is sounding a little too
close to home.
And that's crazy that it comes with that. Like that advice comes with baggage.
It does.
And then so you don't want it.
No.
I don't need that from you. I'd rather, like you said, go to someone who doesn't have these biases towards me, or these like
And it's like, honestly, that's why so many of us should and do go to therapy, because it's like there is somebody that knows nothing. It feels safer than to go to somebody who really personal knows us and can bring in their biases, good or bad, right? You know, because even like there's times that I'm like, my auntie Shawn she goes so hard for me and she loves me so much, but I'm like, which answer is she gonna give me today? You know what I mean?
You know what? That is something that I think we both struggle with, because we love hard.
Yeah.
But I know that you allow me to, you know, there are times I have to preface with Jasmine. I have to go, okay, understand that before I say this, I'm okay with being the bad guy in your life.
Yep.
And I say, it's okay if you hate me after this. You could hang up. We could talk tomorrow. Keep your location on. I've literally had to like say these things. And then I'm like, this is what you did. And I know that you see this, and I know, and you allow me that space.
Yeah.
And it's like that direct. But at the end of the day, like, even if I were the one to make you cry, I'm also like, I will cradle you until you are fine.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I am thankful that you give me that space to be that, because I don't want you to feel like the advice is all based on how cute I think you are. That junk is never going to help you grow. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yep.
So I appreciate you giving me that.
For sure. I appreciate you taking my eye rolls and my sighs.
I know. I'm like, I love you anyway. You're still cute. You're still cute. I be like, okay.
Thank you, queen.
I'm like, I'm not gonna look directly at her.
I really will be like, all right, auntie.
Or she'll be so silent on the phone, and I'm like, are you still there? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, okay, do you hate me enough to hang up, or can I finish?
I really am the silent killer. Somebody told me that recently. Somebody thought I was coming for their head, and one of my friends was like, no. You would know if she was.
It's so funny. Like, we'll talk about something, or you're like, I need your advice. And I'm like, if you ask for my advice, you don't get to pretty it up.
Yep.
You don't get to like tell me I'm too hard. Like, you know me. Oh God. But then I also love that Jasmine is like, I'll be nervous about something, and I'll be like, I need to FaceTime you. And I'll show her the thing, or I'll be doing it, and she'll be like, okay, this is too much, or no, you're overthinking it. This is great. Like, she will directly, and I trust it, and I'm not scared of it. I'm not like intimidated, you know what I mean?
Because my approach with you is, this is how you're seeing it, and this is what is actually what I see, but also this is what it is for you.
Yeah, that's true.
It's about knowing the person you're giving advice to as well. Yeah.
Wow, that's so funny.
I love that.
Okay, I think this is my last question. Okay, do you have like one more?
I think
you have one more in you.
Yeah, I have one more.
Okay. All right. Ooh, this one is good. Okay. If you traveled to the past and had a chance to talk to your parent for an hour without telling them that you're their child, okay, what would you want to talk about?
Oh, this
tries not to slam my phone down.
What would I want to tell you about?
Oh my God.
That is a fire question.
You better answer it. I know you got some. And you can choose a parent, or you can tell me what you would say to both.
I'll say to both.
Like, if you were just like, if you ran up on them on a date or something, like, you would just...
I'm like, is it a first date? So are we coming hard or what?
Because didn't they go to school together? Did they go to school
Yeah.
together? Oh, shoot.
Yeah, so my parents went to school together. But it's actually hilarious. I'm so curious. There's so many things I'm so curious about that I'm like, what would be the big question that would give me all the answers, right?
Or no, because you're telling, you're wanting to... Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay,
yeah.
Never mind.
I'm like, there's so much that I want to know. But yeah, my parents, they went to high school together, and I think that if I could like, okay, sit down, I have an hour. Shoot, I'm like, there's so many things. I think that I would want to talk about life before knowing one another. My parents had two very different walks of life. And like not even, they were in the same state for maybe 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Or something like that. And so I would want to know like what what in your life brought you to this point? What in your life, led you to be who you are? And I know it sounds so vague, but I know that like the older that I'm getting now, I'm beginning to kind of ask some of those questions.
Wow.
Which is great. I'm super thankful that one of my parents allows me the space to do so. But I just want to know, like, what were your hurts and what were your fears in your childhood that's like got you to the place that you're in now? Like, what was that like?
Wow.
Because there's so many things. Like, I sit and I think about my own life, and I'm like, I know that this is kind of relating to the question that, or about like talking with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
I know that when I approach motherhood one day, I want to tell my kids about the fears that I had when I was a kid and things that scared me or what intimidated me, in my life, because I think it's just so telling. It's so telling how your personality forms. Like, I know,
that's true.
When I was younger, I was just like so bubbly and had like a big personality. And now there's, moments where I stand in a room and I feel like debilitated, but I know exactly why. And so I'm like, I could be able to communicate that. So like, I think if I were to have an hour, I want to know, like, what were your hurts, what were your fears, like, in your childhood that like led you to like the person that you are now, and like what did that look like when you guys met each other?
Because that's so deep, because then you think about it, like, you then understand as a child why they did certain things to you or had created atmospheres for you in their relationship, because your parents are separated or weren't married. And I'm only saying this for context, but so you said in a few episodes, just for the people ago, like, they never lived in the same house.
Nope.
So you always had to deal with like separate relationships.
Yeah.
And so knowing that information of like, what happened to you? Like, who hurt you?
Right. Exactly.
You could at least like carry that into how you had to deal with them one-on-one in different, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's actually super powerful.
I'm just, because there's just so much curiosity that I have, because, a lot of people and I know most people don't see it this way, and if I get reprimanded, that's okay with me. But like, even if some parents get divorced, some kids still had the luxury of having their parents in the same household and seeing them operate with one another. I personally see that as a luxury.
Okay, let me tell you why I agree.
Yeah.
It's a luxury because you experienced how they cohabitate.
Yes.
Meaning, if they are toxic for one another, you saw this is either what I don't want or they are. Wow. Yeah. Okay, that's actually a great way to say it. And I don't think that you'll get any, flack for that, because it's always a plus to see how people cohabitate. It's always a plus to see y'all don't belong together.
Right.
Or you guys know how to work it out for the kids. Yeah. Or you guys really are in love and you just might be happy without us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But it's like, I never had that, which is fine. I don't feel like, I fully missed out on anything or whatever, but that is something. And that I'm like, yeah, I wish I would have loved, or that's why I would ask the question that I would ask, because I feel like some of those answers I could have found for myself.
Yeah, they would have been no-brainers.
Yeah. Right, exactly. But
you would have seen triggers.
Yeah, to be like, okay, I kind of understand that, because like, I know I know my grandparents, I was blessed to know both my grandparents, and so it's like I could be like, okay, let me, you know what I mean, you see patterns and things.
Yeah, the mind map is connecting differently.
But for me, I'm like, I have to make the map.
Ooh,
that's fine. Your turn.
Let's just wrap this up right away. Jesus, rude. Okay, so I actually I'm going to come off of that a little bit, because I did experience my parents. There was a short season where they were on and off, right? And so there was a season where I got to see them together. And then there were seasons where they were not in the same house. And so what I will say is I didn't see an issue. I wouldn't say intimately, I would say attraction wise, because I don't think that I saw true intimacy, right? I can tell though that there was attraction.
Yeah.
But I would describe like living with my parents as one of those like, you know, my mom has like said before, like, you know, I stayed for, you know, I wanted to stay for the kids, stayed for the kids. And I just remember saying like, we didn't ask for that because y'all did not need to stay for it. Like y'all did not need to.
We were fine.
Because like you guys did not need to do that.
Yeah.
It was actually worse that you guys didn't separate sooner.
Yep.
And that was an honest moment I had to have. Like, that wasn't fun and it wasn't good and it wasn't healthy. And, you know, it actually led to conversations like, I know that for her, she thought that she was just like respecting tradition in church. And I'm like, you were making it harder for us. Like, we're, you know, I have all sisters.
Yeah.
So we're all watching one woman make decisions that lead us to say, is this how it's supposed to go? You know what I mean? So you have those questions. So when you talk about the benefit of seeing that, whether it was healthy or unhealthy, you get to address, you know, this is why this didn't happen, or this is why. So this actually leads to my answer. So I didn't see a lot of like affection, I would say like intimacy with like, we didn't all like sit down and watch a movie together. We didn't like see like my parents, you know, doing the dishes together, hanging out, you know, in the kitchen and like kicking us out and be like, you know what I mean? Like we didn't see them like hold hands while driving and things like that. And so I saw that in different places. So then when I got married, it was like, train yourself to do that. Right.
Yeah.
So, okay. But, just to answer your question though, what I think that I would want to talk to my parents about, and like, it would have to be individually, for my mom, I would want to have a conversation of like, it's okay to show your children intimacy. So like, of course, in a non-sexual way, but like my mom was not a touchy person. Yeah. Like she was not, like we would reach to hug and she'd be like, stop. And like, I like was like a very wanting to be present child. Yeah. And, like there wasn't hugs. Like there wasn't like this, like
I just want to be held by my mom.
Yeah. I don't remember a time where I got to like cry in her arms and just like, and I think that I'd want to ask why that was, you know, like, or talk about that, because maybe somewhere along the line she felt like that showed weakness or, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I'd want to talk about the things that you might think are negative, would have been negative towards your kids. Like they actually would have helped us a little bit more. Yeah. Yeah. So I'd want to talk about the importance of affection and what she thinks that means, you know. For my dad, you know, I'd want to talk to him about sorting his things out before starting a family. You know, you talk about this with your parents. It's like, what was your lifestyle like? Yeah. Because I genuinely think that my dad is a great person. I think life happened to him so hard though, that nobody can leave those situations unjaded. Right. Right. Nobody. And so you almost kind of step back and you're like, yeah, I don't know how you would have made it out of this clean. So it's like, it sucks because you meet those people that are always in the wrong place at the wrong time. Right. Yeah. Or like that have just been dealt a bad hand. And it's not necessarily like, woe is me. It's not that they like chose this life. They just, things are just happening. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I think that with my dad, I would talk about ways that he can sort that out before bringing children into the world. Because it took the adult me to understand him rather than the kid me. Right. So anyway, that's mine. Okay.
That is so good. So good. Oh
hit me with your final.
My last question. Back to dating. Oh. Go back to your first relationship. First serious relationship. What was the scariest thing about that first relationship or entering into that first serious relationship?
Dang. The scariest thing about entering my first serious relationship, I'd say it was the gamble of wasting my time.
Oh, yes, queen.
I think that because you'd want to think that once you decide to have a serious relationship, this is the one. Mm-hmm. And then you like start to look at the time you've invested. Because like I think about it, each serious relationship I had lasted at least a year. Mm-hmm. And like that's a lot of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's the risk. I think for me it's the risk of like wasting my time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't I wasn't rushing. It's just the idea that like, man, I wasted 2 Christmases on you. Like, you know what I mean? Like I could have been working on myself if you weren't gonna be honest about this.
Yeah.
I could have I could have went for that job. Had I known that you were gonna do, I wouldn't have stayed in the city. It's like those kind of things. So I think the gamble of wasting my time. Or and that other person's, you know what I mean? It's not just about me.
Yeah.
So that's the scary thing.
Ooh, that is fire.
That's it. I ain't even gonna go.
Right.
Jeez.
I relate so much. I'm like, let's add that to the list. I would say for me, the scariest thing, it was allowing my heart to be soft for someone. I've been really, really, really good at just being like, I'm gonna let you feel like I'm interested in you. I'm gonna make you feel cared for, but that's where it stops for me.
Is that synonymous to like breaking down a wall?
Letting my heart be soft.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's letting you into a part of my life that I don't let anybody else into.
Okay. Now I see.
And so I think that was the scariest thing for me because I also know I'm a person of investment time. I don't want to waste it. I very much relate to that so much so I'm like, if I'm here and I let my heart be soft with you, what? Have you met me?
You're getting a lot.
Right.
You're getting bang for your buck.
So that was definitely the scariest thing that I was like,
oh my goodness.
I'm trying to do this. What?
Oh my god.
I don't recognize myself.
That is scary. Like,
yeah.
I let down this wall for you. Mm-hmm. You just gonna waste my time. The disrespect.
Right. Put some respect on my name.
Cold-blooded.
So to put it plainly, because we don't gotta get into that.
That's crazy though. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So that's okay. Short and sweet. I get it. I respect it. Wow. Okay. So as we, just start to like wrap this up, I do want to say that I have absolutely enjoyed feedback and interactions. I've actually had a few personal interactions with people about the podcast this past week, and I'm almost like, oh my God, like this is, it's,
Yeah.
And so we really do enjoy when we are approached.
Yes.
By a listener. Mm-hmm. And, if they recognize us, hopefully we're not doing anything crazy.
Right.
But like if they recognize us and they are just in full support of the podcast, or even if like, you don't agree with 100% of what's going on, like if you are just willing to have that quick conversation, depending on what your time looks like,
right,
we're open to that. So I just want to say thank you. I met one listener. She's so cute. Mm-hmm. She is an athlete at the high school.
Yeah. And
then I have another listener who he's also an athlete. He is he's one of my favorite runners to watch right now. Mm. And I'm like, I can't wait until my kids are older and in sports like this, because the way I scream for these kids, you would think that my seed is somewhere out there.
Right.
It's crazy. Right. I'm big and pregnant and I'm like, this last leg, let's go.
Right.
So I really love that there is a younger range of, listeners.
Yeah.
So anyway, we just really do enjoy that feedback.
Absolutely. So grateful this last week. I had a personal interaction. I was spending some time with some family. This is new to you as well.
I have something to say. Okay, I forgot. Okay,
I love
okay,
new
okay,
things.
okay.
But I was talking with one of my family members, and she had sent our podcast to some of the executives at her company. And I was just like, I was so blown away because she was like, you guys are having conversations that even in the workplace, we need to be having these conversations. Whoa. And so, I thought, I was like, it's just a family member supporting us. And I'm like, I'm grateful for that alone. Wow. But for her to go and like kind of, recommend our podcast that's a personal person or a person who is, in relation to her in her life, and to be like, let's, have these conversations in the workplace. I was just like, I was in tears that night because I was like, man, I get so overwhelmed like with gratefulness. And that's, why we just continue to do what we're doing and have these conversations.
Oh my God. Okay. So, that is, this is going to make me emotional, but remember, so earlier this week I posted a video about just some reflecting I had with a last episode we had, and then how I really felt about it now. So I think I talked about like body shaming and how I really felt now with my insecurities during my pregnancy. So I posted that video, and then the next day I was at the track meet. Yeah. And there was a woman that walked up to me, and she was like, hey, can I ask you a question? And I was like, yeah, And she was like, how old are you? And I'm like, 35. And she was like, how is it? And I was like, being 35 or what?
Right.
She was like, being pregnant at 35. Yeah. And so I said, can you tell me what your context is and what you're wanting to? Yeah. So she has a teenage son. And she's also Black, and she is like, she was there for, I think he was running too, but she was like, you look great. And I want to know how your experience is going being over the age of 30 and being pregnant. And it triggered me because I'm like, I know the typical societal, image around being pregnant over 30, geriatric pregnancy. It's so weird, right? Yeah. Over 35. But so like, she just wanted to know. And so I pretty much was like, listen, don't get stuck on the terminology that the doctors are going to give you. Yeah. Be good to your body. Be ready for anything. And you know what I mean? Like, take care of your body, because she was thinking about trying again. And it just made me think like, wow, like I'm struggling with my own thing, but there are people that are even approaching this at this age or at this stage, and they're like, okay, it looks like you're carrying it well, so I want to know how you feel. Yeah. And it's interesting to be almost like having to talk yourself up. Meanwhile, somebody is like, can you talk me up? Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, you got to put yourself to the side and realize like, wow, like, wow, like I'm not the only one, Yeah. So I had a good conversation with her. Oh, I love that. It just was the timing because I had just put that video out and was like, yeah, I'm struggling. So anyway, I'm grateful for those interactions. Yeah. We are grateful for listeners inboxing us, DMing us, leaving comments. We love it all. So just keep doing it, please. Yes,
we're grateful. We appreciate it. It's helpful for us.
So until next time, let this sit with you and let us know what you guys think.
Yep. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.